Hey, what's up guys? Maximus Black here. I just wanted to give you guys a heads up on the big Legacy of the Void patch notes. The last one, I made a video here and posted on the channel because they were so severe, getting rid of mules and chrono boost and the change that they had made with the queen injects, only having 2 extra larvae. Well, there was another huge patch that just went yesterday. I am yet to try it out. I'm going to be streaming it all day today because there is some really cool changes, some nerfs, some buffs. Let me get into it. First off, Protoss. The Zealot charge damage has decreased from 30 to 8, which is one hell of a nerf. Zealots were just OP. Basically, you'd get charge, and when they charge and their first swipe would do 30 damage, and when you have like mass zealots, you would just wipe armies quickly. So that was something that needed to be nerfed. That is totally fine. The chrono boost is back. It doesn't cost any energy to use. Okay, the ability is set to auto cast by default on the Nexus, so it'll just go automatically without you having to do it, kind of like the queens with larva injects, same idea. The efficiency is reduced to 20%, but it never expires, okay? So, it never goes away. And the warp gate research time has increased to 160 seconds from 140. Also, the photon overcharge, okay, listen to this. The overcharge can now be cast on pylons. Yes, proxy pylons. You can go into somebody's base, build a proxy pylon, and do an overcharge on that pylon and deal damage, okay? So this is going to turn out to be some crazy when cheese fails. It's going to be really fun to use, but anyway. It has an attack range of 7. It has a duration of 30 seconds, and it only costs 25 energy to use. It deals 30 damage every 1.25 seconds. So this is something that apparently they've been testing for quite some time. They feel they've got it to a point where it isn't too overpowered. In my mind, it sounds overpowered, but we also got to understand that it takes 16 seconds to warp in from a proxy pylon if you do not have a warp gate beside it, and you can't just necessarily build warp gates beside all your proxy pylons. You just can't do that. So I think that this is their way of protecting your warp-ins, but at the same time, maybe using it in an aggressive manner as well. And I also don't know if... So, it can only be cast on pylons. So you can no longer overcharge on your Nexus. So that is actually a pretty big nerf, very big nerf, because of Terran drops, Protoss coming in and rushing you, so on and so forth, Zerg laying all-ins at your natural. You are now going to have to overcharge a pylon, but also guys, even though it may seem a little OP, pylons aren't very tough. It doesn't make the pylon invulnerable. So you can just rush the pylon and kill it. Pylons die very quickly. There's been a change to the Colossus. They've increased the upgraded range to 9 from 8, which is something that needed to be done. You just couldn't get close enough with Colossus. They were dying too quickly. The Tempest now functions as it does in Heart of the Swarm. So it looks like they've gotten rid of some of those weird damage over time things that they had going on with the Tempest that nobody used. Great. Immortal. The barrier ability is set to auto-cast by default. That is good. It triggers when the Immortal is attacked. So there is a good and a bad to that. The good being we don't have to continuously have actives for every unit. There's an active for the Immortal. There's an active for the Stalker. There's an active for High Templar. There's an active basically for every Sentry. There's a it just goes on and on and on, and it's good to see that this will be auto-casted by default. Only bad thing is using that ability can also help you out if you do it manually. So there is an option. You can turn off the autocast, but being able to bait somebody and having the immortal go down to almost death and then putting on the ability, the barrier ability, can help you out in a battle. But anyway, we're digging deep into the theory crafting. But okay, good change. The Oracle Revelation cast range increased from 12 to 9. So basically, if you don't know what that is, they've gotten rid of the ability where you can just see cloaked units by flying around with your Oracle. Now you have to use this ability. So say if there's DTs in your base, you have to aim the ability at an area and get the DT within that. Okay, it's kind of hard to explain, but if you were to miss, the other DTs would not be, you would not have vision. So it's a good thing that they increase that, because if you're a smart player and you're rushing with DTs and they have an Oracle, all you do is you just scatter your DTs so that you're forcing him to use, him or her, to use the ability, but then the other two aren't caught. Okay, the Carrier. It has increased cooldown for releasing the interceptors to 40 from 20. So that's just a nerf for the carriers. Not a whole lot of people use them. Let's go on to Terran, the orbital command. The mule is back. This is something that actually needed to happen. We were all excited about it, but Terran was having a really tough time not having mules. And also, a lot of the Terran builds required them to bring their SCVs with their army, and they would sack their SCVs to be a meat shield. They couldn't do that anymore. They'd just be too salty about their mineral line. So, that's that. Mule is back, but it has changed. The ability is set to autocast on nearby minerals. So, you can no longer bring down a Manor Mule over at their base. You can no longer call down a bunch of mules on an expansion nearby, collect all the minerals, bring them back. Can't do that. You have to be in a certain radius of the mineral line, which is great. Also, the mule costs no energy, okay? Kind of like the Chrono Boost. And it now has a cooldown. There is a 30 range from casting to the orbital command, so it has to be in a range of 30 in order to bring down those mules. So you'll no longer, like I said, be able to Manor Mule on the other side of the map or wherever it may the battle may take place. As long as it's in a range of 30, then you're free to use the mule. The harvesting amount has decreased from 40 to 40 from 45, so it's a small decrease. And the scanner sweep costs has been increased from 100 to 50. So before you could scan on 50 energy, now it costs 100. The reason why they're doing that is because now that the Terran no longer has to use energy for mules, they have all this extra energy, and it would be very easy for Terrans to scan every 60 seconds or whatever and see the base, all the bases. It would be an easy, cheap way to get a map vision. So they want to increase that. And of course, when you're Terran, you usually get a second orbital command very quickly. So you'd basically have infinite scans, which would be good against scouting. And also, if there's DTs in the base, they're pretty much irrelevant because you're not using that energy anymore to get mules and punishing a greedy Terran. Also, being able to, being able to scan other cloaked things, being able to scan swarm hosts or anything burrowed units, you get the picture. The call down for extra supply has also increased from 75 to 50 on the same grounds as you're no longer using energy for mules, so it would leave a lot of extra of energy, and if you're just calling down supplies, you never really have to build many supply depots, which would give you a huge advantage to put into building units and maybe rushing a little harder. The siege tank it now has a 0.75 second delay before firing when unloading from medevac. So, in siege mode. So, for those who don't know, in Legacy of the Void, you can have a siege tank and pick it up with a medevac and just drop it around, and it'll automatically shoot in siege mode, which is a fantastic ability, but it was very cheesy because the moment that the siege tank dropped, it would automatically fire. So you could literally take a medevac, drop, pick up, drop, pick up, drop, pick up, drop, pick up, and it would just fire, pick up, fire, pick up, fire, pick up, fire, so on and so forth. You can never grab it. So this makes it so that it's a little less than a second, basically gives the tank a moment to sit down, find a target, and shoot it instead of just shoot. Something that needed to happen. Zerg. So those are the Protoss and Terran changes. Here are the Zerg ones. The spawn larva increased from 2 to 3 per cast. So in Legacy of the Void, the newest change was queens would auto-cast the larva, and it would only give 2. They've increased it to 3. Okay, so it's not a major nerf from where it was in Heart of the Swarm and before the major changes in Legacy of the Void. So that has gotten a nerf. Or sorry, not a nerf, a buff. Creep now spreads and reduces faster. Okay? Or recedes faster. Basically, you can spread creep much quicker, but it's going to come back much faster. Okay? Doesn't elaborate how fast that is. I'll know when I see it in the game. The Ravager. A new upgrade. Oh boy. Increases the corrosive bile range. Or corrosive bile range, sorry. From 13 range to 13 from 9. So this bile range, I do believe, is the ability that shoots in the air and comes down and destroys everything. Gets rid of force fields, blows up War Prism, kills units very quickly, can blow up Immortals, so on and so forth. This probably makes it so that they want to make it so that the Ravager really feels like a siege unit. It is way back and is used for long range instead of short range. The costs, it says cost 101. Oh, okay, for the upgrade. It costs 100 and requires a layer. Okay. So the corrosive bile range 13 to 9 costs 100 for this upgrade and requires a layer. So I'm assuming the 9 is still standard, but the upgrade gives it the extra range. Overlord. The transport upgrade requires a layer. Thank God. I'm telling you guys right now, and I know I can come off biased because whenever you're a Protoss or Zerg or Terran player, you're always biased to some capacity. But Zerg in the latest patch has been absolutely ridiculously overpowered. And this Overlord transportation thing was just beyond stupid. They didn't even need a layer. What they were doing, they were just teching to speedlings, getting banelings, and just dropping immediately, and it just became virtually impossible to hold. Not only are the Legacy of the Void maps already Zerg favored, because there's multiple entrances on almost every map, so you got to wall off in multiple places, but now, even when you wall off in 2 places, and you've invested all of your resources and structures over there to build the wall quick enough before they attacked, you'd had Overlords dropping on your mineral lines with banelings or 30, 40 speedlings. It was just ridiculous. So, thank God the upgrade, the transport upgrade requires a layer. This will slow down timings immensely or punish them if they try and get a layer very, very quickly. So, guys, those are the patches. I just wanted to share those with you, give you my initial thoughts on those. This is definitely a happy medium. I love the fact that they're still catering to average players. They're trying to not make the game as hard, but they're also not cutting it off as much as they were in the previous patch. So they're bringing back a little bit more for experienced players and pro players to work with. They have the autocast things now, and also with the chrono boost. it doesn't say this in the patch, but I'm almost certain that I read that the Chrono Boost is automatically on the Nexus, but I'm pretty sure that they talked about having it so that you can change where you want the Chrono Boost to go. So if you no longer want to Chrono Boost the Nexus, the Nexus, then you can Chrono Boost on a Forge or a Proxy Stargate or a Warp Gate or wherever, an upgrade, whatever. You can do that. So you can actually switch where you want the auto cast, because the Chrono Boost is auto casting all the time, every however many seconds, and it defaults on the Nexus, but you can choose where you want that Chrono Boost to go. Okay, so if you know you're rushing with an Oracle, you can change it so that it goes on the Stargate and it Chrono Boosts that unit, whatever unit is coming out from that, as quickly as possible. But you only have one, you only can do it on one structure. So I suppose when you get multiple Nexus or Nexi, you'll be able to have multiple different Chrono Boosts going. I don't know, but that's what I read before. Doesn't necessarily say it in the patch, but it does say it autocasts by default on the Nexus, which must mean you can bring it elsewhere, because if not, it would say it would only cast on the Nexus. So what I read must be correct. Anyway, rambling on, getting a little too much into it. If you want to hear my thoughts more in depth, I am going to be streaming right now on Twitch. Link is in the description below. Playing StarCraft all day. Definitely going to be trying out the proxy pylons with the overcharges and seeing where the game is at. I'm getting excited for Legacy of the Void. Hopefully you guys are too. Also, we will be having another tournament. I'm speaking with sponsors now to get out a date. It is looking like possibly next Sunday. If not, it will be the following week. But I am also been invited to go to Las Vegas. Blizzard wants to send me out there for a Heroes of the Storm event and some things that they're doing. They want to meet with me and talk. So I don't know what will come out of that, but I will be going there for the Heroes of the Storm tournament that they have going on the 19th and 20th of this month. Okay, so I'll let you guys know more about that later. And also, the last tournament that we had, you will notice that there was one game that was missing, and I think that there'll be one more game that will also be missing. We apologize for that, the inconvenience in that, but the recorder on OBS messed up a couple of files, and we were playing music in between matches while we were setting up, so the Twitch audio cut off a lot of the stuff. So we just lost a couple games, but the good thing is we got like 26 casts out of that tournament, so you guys got plenty of content from that, probably about 10 more games than what you were actually used to. So thank you very much for watching. It had a lot of views on the last tournament, and you guys were using the G2A codes, the Yords, and even Loot Crate. A lot of you guys were signing up for that as well. So big thank you there. I will make the announcement when the next tournament is happening. Once again, I'm playing StarCraft, the new version, right now. Link is in the description below. Thanks, guys. Have a good weekend. Peace out.